Hey guys, MDG Red here again, this time for part 4 of the Blender tutorial. And in this part I really wanted to focus on some of the troubleshooting that I've been noticing a lot of people have whilst working with Blender. So I wanted to explain a little bit about some problems you might face or things you just might not know, and that will help you through your through the modeling process. So at first, I wanted to start with the bevel, or the Control B function, which in the part 1 of the tutorial series with where we focused on stock, where people really or someone really had trouble uh, getting the roundness or the bevel on the part. So as you can see, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot it again. I made just a simple cube to show you this. So let's go into edit mode by pressing tab, and let's create a subdivision here. Ctrl R, left click, right click to center it. So the way you need to do this, or the way you need to make sure that the bevel actually makes your sides rounder, is to scale this down. For in this case, I'm gonna scale it down on the y-axis till it looks something like this, and only then can you actually use the Ctrl B function properly. So let's hold Control and let's select the entire face right here, press Ctrl B, and let's scroll up. As you can see now, we have an actual round shape. Now this is really important to have. You need to have this, or sorry guys, you need to have this, or this, or whatever this function, or this, or you need at least something that is already quite it's not round specifically, but it is in a way that it goes up or down in it's diagonal. So only then can you use Ctrl B, scroll up, and now you can create awesome things like this. It already looks pretty good actually. The next thing I wanted to show is a trick that is pretty cool, and it really allows you to save time. It is when we do this, let's scale this down again, but we use the subdivision modifier, subdivision surface modifier, to create something that is similar, but without using constantly adding more subdivisions and moving all those individual faces around. So by not applying the subdivision surface modifier, you can still edit your model in the previous, in how it looked previously. So right now, for example, I can make this weird shape with the faces that already existed on this model. But the thing I wanted to show you here is that subdivision surface also works here. So if I right click and I now scale this down, or I do another one, let's just say right here, we now have something like this, and we can still edit it the way we like, without having to move all those individual faces. So now you can make really weird stuff. Let's just play around with it a little bit. So now you could create something like, one second guys, kind of looks like a vase actually. Right here now you have something that looks really weird, but it looks pretty cool. And as long as you do not click apply, you could keep doing this, but bear in mind that it may require just a few more subdivisions before you can actually create something more detailed. Now let's click smooth, and we can still edit the model the way we like. Now here is another part of the problem shooting. It is this. You notice that these weird shapes are showing through. Now this is actually I do not really know the correct way to the way this is called, but I do know that this is a mistake that is caused by faces that are pulled inwards, but are now overlapping another face. So an easier way to explain this is right now, I edit this model with 4 edges, but because of this subdivision surface modifier, there aren't actually more than there aren't actually for edges there are more. But because I'm still editing it with 4 edges, it doesn't really know how to deal with this properly. So it, I mean, it really does. Don't take this wrong. It does know how to deal with this, but as you can see, because I'm not selecting an individual vertex, it keeps that vertex in its original position, but now these faces are overlapping it. So the way you can fix this is by just keep adding more of more divisions, and just keep scaling them up and down until all of those disappear. Or you might need to delete some faces. It really depends on your situation, but you can still, if you have this problem, just contact me now via Discord. This time I'll really put my Discord tag in the description below, and I will be able to help you. Now for the next troubleshooting part, I'm gonna create another cube, and I'm gonna select one of these faces, go to shading, and flip direction. It is this. You might not see it from this side or this, but if you look at this is really weird. It's changing color constantly. But this is because pretty much all game engines are made to render only one side of one of those faces. It's meant to save time. Like for example, now if I import this into Roblox, it only has to render 6 faces. If this were not the case, it would have to render 12 faces, because it would have to render both sides, and really that will start to cause a lot of trouble very quickly. So if you don't have this face the right way, up or down or left or right, Roblox will not render this side. But because it doesn't also render the inside, you will not see anything if you look through this. So that is why it's very important to keep a good lookout for these faces. Now, if it's just one face, it's very easy. If you want to fix this, go into edit mode, select your face, go to UV shading or shading UV, and click normals flip direction. As you can see right now, it's back to normal. Or if it were multiple faces, you could go to edit mode again, press A, and then recalculate, and now it automatically recalculates all those normals, which helps most of the time, unless you have something, a very advanced model or something like netting, which I make a lot, where it just doesn't work. In that case, what you could do, which could also help, is go to W and remove doubles, because some doubles are shown upside down, and that creates the impression that there is a face there that is actually on the at the wrong on the wrong side up or down or left or right, whilst in reality it's just another face that's not supposed to be there. But if you click W remove doubles, it will automatically delete all those doubles. However, there are always still times where I just can't delete the normals, but I guarantee you that recalculate most of the time pretty much always works, because Blender is a pretty smart algorithm, so it will calculate pretty easily where all those vertices belong. Especially if you have a model that's very square, then it will be very easy for Blender to just think, okay, those vertices are there, then just flip that face and it will be ready. So that is another problem shooting thing. And the last one is smooth. So let's go to add modifier, subdivision surface real quick. By the way, quick tip: if you add a sphere, go to mesh, UV sphere. A UV sphere is never really completely round. There's always a slight difference in size in, I believe it was the x-axis. If you want to create a completely round circle, you have to use a cube and then apply the subdivision surface modifier to it, because it might look very weird, but this is actually a very completely round sphere, which is pretty cool. Although it has some of those weird, like for example this point right here where just 3 faces are overlapping might look very weird, but believe me, this thing is really round. It's just 100% round. But yeah, let's go back to you know what? Let's do this. So just I'm gonna use this one. Click apply, and then I'm gonna select, press Z to go into wireframe mode. I'm gonna press 5, 1, select all these bottom ones, and I'm just gonna extrude them. E, S, and I'm gonna do this. So right now it looks very weird. It looks like an egg for some reason. I don't know. Let's click smooth. But just say this were a hat. It looked very weird. Just imagine that this would be a hat. Let's just remove this for the realism. Let's fill this face up. F to fill, and just say this was a beanie, and you really want, of course, the folding flaps of the beanie to show through, but it's not showing through. It just calculates it like a completely smooth model. Now the way to do this is by going to Add Modifier and then use Edge Split. As you can see right now, you have a clear split between your folding flaps and your beanie. So this really works well, but in some cases it removes some of the smoothness in your models, and if that is the case, then you have to either, one second guys, have to either lower the split angle or make it higher, because for example 0, it just unsubdivides pretty much, or unsmooths your model. But if I go back to 30, 32 in this case, or go even higher, then it will not smooth anymore properly, or it will not split anymore. It will just be smooth again. So just play around with these values and see what suits you best. Now another quick trick I want to show you guys is something that really saves me time on adding details on guns. So to do this, we're going to go to user preferences. Then we're going to go to mesh. I'm just going to search mesh, and I recommend checking every single one of these, because they give you extra meshes that you can choose from, which are very handy to work with. But most importantly, bolt. Add mesh bolt factory. Check this one and click save user settings. Go back to your viewport, press Shift A, mesh, and now go to bolt. Now this looks like just a regular bolt, but in this case, if you go to this side right here, you can change it to a nut, to a bolt. You can change the bit type from a Phillips to an Allen key, or you can even change the cap to a dome, to a pan. Now here's the thing. If I go to cap and I do none, or one second guys, dome, you now have a screw. Just to say you only need to boolean a groove in here, or just something that your screwdriver can go into, but you basically right now have a screw. Now what I usually do is I set all these values to 0, because that will remove the or actually diff count. You need to diff count needs to be 36 or lower, or a little bit lower, but you don't set this to 0 because it will mess it up. Also, by the way, this one, oh, very sorry guys, this one needs to be 5.6, of course, but you can change this to higher or lower, depends on what you want. But effectively, you now have a screw, which you can now add to your guns. If you take a closer look at my gun models, you could probably see a few of those bolts, because it just really saves your time on those extra details, and it's really not hard to add the bolt or the screw, because it also lets you keep the screw part that's sticking out, and makes you add extra detail. So a really quick tip that you probably are going to find useful one day, doesn't have to be right now, or just the current model you're working on, like, oh, that's a breakthrough. No, it's just one of those tips that will help you one day. But I really hope this helped you guys with your problems. If you have problems, then by all means DM me via Discord. I'm pretty much always available. I might answer a little bit late, but it's because I still have internship and some school business, but I'm always open for problem solving. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Don't forget to leave a like, and see you on part 5.